You want to know how we lost the war? Fine. Sit down, grab whatever toxic beverage you prefer, and let me tell you about the most humiliating defeat in the history of the Vorkathi Empire. No, seriously. I was there. I watched it happen. And I still wake up in the middle of my sleep cycle, drenched in stress fluids, wondering how in the name of the 7 moons we managed to lose to a species that throws rocks. Yes, rocks. My name is Kelvar. I served as communications officer aboard the battlecruiser Infinite Dominion under Fleet Commander Thraxus, the most decorated military leader in 3,000 cycles. We had plasma cannons that could vaporize a city in 0.2 seconds. We had shield technology that could deflect a supernova. We had tactical AI systems that could predict enemy movements 17 steps ahead. We had everything. The humans had rocks. And somehow we lost. Let me back up. This was during the 3rd expansion campaign, when the Vorkathi Empire decided that Sol's system looked like a nice addition to our growing collection of conquered worlds. Standard procedure, really. We sent scouts first. 3 ships. Fast, stealthy, equipped with every sensor array known to science. They mapped Earth, cataloged its resources, analyzed its dominant species. The reports came back. 1 sentient species. Technologically primitive. Split into hundreds of competing factions. No unified planetary defense. No energy shields. No plasma weapons. They were still using chemical propulsion for space travel, for crying out loud. They had barely figured out nuclear fission. It was like finding a nest of insects and calling it a civilization. My command estimated a 72-hour conquest. Maximum. Whack. We allocated 43 warships. Thraxus called it excessive. I remember him standing on the command deck, his 3 eyes scanning the deployment roster, mandibles clicking in what I now recognize as nervous laughter. "This is overkill," he said. "We could take this planet with 10 ships. 5, even." The Battle Council insisted. Protocol demanded overwhelming force for all first contact scenarios, so 43 ships it was, each one capable of glassing a continent, each one packed with enough firepower to crack a moon in half, each one crewed by soldiers who had fought in 17 successful campaigns without a single defeat. We jumped into Sol's system on what the humans call a Tuesday. I will never forget that word. Tuesday. It sounds so harmless, doesn't it? Like a small, soft thing that makes pleasant noises. Tuesday. The day everything went wrong. Initial insertion went perfectly. We materialized just beyond their moon, a textbook formation that would allow us to sweep through their orbital space and establish dominance within hours. Our sensors immediately picked up their satellite network. Primitive. Their space stations. Laughable. Their defense platforms. Wait, what defense platforms? They didn't have any. "This is going to be boring," muttered Lieutenant Zara from her tactical station. She was young, only 200 cycles old, fresh from the academy. This was her first real deployment. I was hoping for at least some resistance. Thraxus activated the communication array, standard first contact protocol. We transmitted in 647 languages simultaneously, including the 3 dominant human tongues. The message was simple. Surrender immediately. Acknowledge Vorkathi sovereignty. Resistance is futile. Your civilization will be absorbed. Survivors will be relocated. Standard stuff. We waited for their response. And waited. And waited. "Sir," I said, checking my instruments for the 14th time. "They are not responding. Maybe their communication technology is too primitive to receive our signals," suggested Zara. Thraxus made a dismissive gesture with his lower arms. Then we proceed to Phase 2, demonstration of force. We target their largest urban center, single plasma strike. Enough to eliminate 10 million of them and make our point clear. I pulled up the targeting data. A place called New York City. Population density off the charts for their technological level. Primitive infrastructure. No shields. No point defense systems. It would be over in seconds. Weapons locked, announced Zara. Awaiting your command, sir. Thraxus opened his mandibles to give the order. That was when something hit us. Not something big. Not a missile. Not a plasma bolt. Not anything our threat detection systems even registered as dangerous. Just something. Small. Fast. Solid. The infinite dominion rocked. Not much. Just a gentle shudder, like turbulence. But our shields flickered. For 0.003 seconds, our shields actually flickered. What was that? Thraxus demanded. I checked my sensors. Checked them again. Ran 3 diagnostic routines. Sir, I am not sure. Sensors indicate a kinetic impact. Mass approximately 10 kilograms. Velocity. Oh! Oh? Thraxus turned all 3 eyes toward me. Oh is not a word I want to hear during combat operations, Kelvar. Velocity was 0.02% of light speed, sir. Silence on the command deck. That was fast. Absurdly fast for a civilization that supposedly barely had fusion technology. You do not accelerate things to relativistic speeds by accident. That requires serious energy, serious technology, serious intent. Where did it come from? Asked Zara, her voice suddenly much less bored. I traced the trajectory back. Lunar surface, sir, the far side. A location with no visible installations in our initial scans. A location with no visible installations, repeated Thraxus slowly, meaning they hid it. Apparently, sir. They hit a weapon capable of relativistic strikes, and we did not detect it. Thraxus was clicking his mandibles again, but this time it was definitely not laughter. What else did they hide? As if answering his question, 18 more impacts. 18 more small, fast, solid somethings. This time they hit 3 other ships in our formation. Shields flickered. Hulls groaned. Nothing critical. Nothing that would stop a Vorkathi battlecruiser. But still, 18 hits. 18 weapons we had not detected. 18 very clear messages that these primitives were not quite as primitive as our reports suggested. All ships, combat alert. Thraxus barked into the fleet channel. Evasive pattern Delta 7. Full sensor sweep of the lunar surface, and find me those launchers. The fleet scattered into defensive formation. Our sensors went active, burning across the electromagnetic spectrum, hunting for targets. And we found them. Oh, did we find them? 17 installations, camouflaged under what appeared to be natural terrain, disguised as geological formations, hidden in craters and valleys and lava tubes, each one armed with what our tactical AI finally identified as mass drivers. Railguns, the humans call them. Stupid, primitive, brute force weapons that just throw things really, really fast. Rocks? They were throwing rocks at us. Very fast rocks, granted. Rocks accelerated to velocities that would make most civilized species weep with envy. But still, rocks. Destroy them, ordered Thraxus. 12 ships moved into position. Weapons locked. Plasma cannons charged. This was going to be easy. You can hide a mass driver. You cannot hide it firing. The thermal signature alone would paint a target brighter than a star. One volley and those installations would be vapor. The humans fired first. Not the mass drivers. Something else. Something our sensors screamed about half a second before impact. Something that moved even faster than the rocks. Something that was not solid at all. Lasers. Now, lasers are common. We have lasers. Everyone has lasers. Lasers are a basic technology that you develop right after you figure out electricity and right before you realize that plasma is better in every way. So lasers were not a surprise. What was a surprise was the power output. What was a surprise was that these supposedly primitive humans had somehow built laser arrays capable of pumping out exawatts of directed energy in sustained pulses. 3 of our ships lost their forward shields instantly. Just gone. Burned through like tissue paper. The hull armor held barely, but the ships were forced to withdraw, their defensive systems overloaded and screaming. How? Zara was staring at her tactical display like it had personally insulted her. How do they have that kind of power generation? Their civilization runs on burning dead plants. Not entirely accurate, I muttered, scanning through our intelligence data with growing horror. Apparently they also split atoms, and they have been doing it for longer than our reports indicated. Much longer. Thraxus made a sound I had never heard him make before. Something between a growl and a laugh and a cry of existential despair. We underestimated them. Yes, sir? Dadley. Dadley. Very yes, sir. Communications. Get me high command. Now. Now. I opened a channel back to the fleet staging area, 3 light-years away. Standard protocol for engagements that were not going according to plan. Channel open, sir. Thraxus squared his shoulders. This is Fleet Commander Thraxus to High Command. Sol system operation encountering unexpected resistance. Enemy capabilities significantly exceed intelligence projections. Requesting tactical revision and possible reinforcements. The response came back after the light lag delay. Admiral Corvin, Supreme Commander of the 3rd Expansion Fleet. His voice was dry and utterly unsympathetic. Defined significant, Commander. They have weapons, sir. Advanced weapons. Hidden weapons. They appear to have been preparing for contact for some time. All species prepare defenses, Commander. That is why we bring overwhelming force. Proceed with the operation. Admiral, with respect, these are not ordinary defenses. These are weapons that could threaten our ships. They have already damaged 3 vessels. A longer pause this time. When Corvin spoke again, his voice was colder. You have 43 warships, Commander? They have none. You have plasma cannons that can sterilize their planet. But they have rock throwers. Proceed with the operation. Establish dominance. Crush resistance. That is an order. The channel closed. Thraxus looked at me. I looked at Zara. Zara looked at her tactical display like it might suddenly make sense if she stared hard enough. Well, said Thraxus finally, you heard the Admiral. Let us crush some resistance. We moved forward. The fleet tightened formation, shields overlapping, weapons ready. The lunar installations kept firing, rocks and lasers and a few missiles that were so primitive they used chemical rockets, but were somehow still fast enough to be annoying. We burned through them. Plasma cannons made short work of the hidden bases. Turns out when you pump several terawatts into a mountainside, everything underneath tends to cease existing. Within 20 minutes, the lunar far side was a glowing, molten hellscape. Problem solved. Except it was not solved at all. Because while we were busy eliminating their lunar defenses, the humans had been doing something very clever on Earth itself. Something we did not notice until it was too late. Something that still makes my circulatory fluid run cold when I think about it. They evacuated their cities, all of them. Bam, every major population center on the planet. Empty. Dark. Silent. Tens of millions of humans just gone. Vanished into their countryside, into their mountains, into the vast empty spaces of their surprisingly large continents. And they did it in less than 30 minutes. Sir, I said slowly, staring at my sensors. And the cities. The cities are empty. What do you mean empty? I mean there is nobody there, sir. Heat signatures show minimal activity. Electronic emissions have dropped by 97%. They moved everyone. Thraxus was silent for a long moment. Then he started clicking his mandibles again, with that horrible, nervous clicking. They knew we would target population centers. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They planned for it. Yes, sir. Which means this was not a panicked response to our arrival. This was a prepared strategy. They were ready for us. I did not want to say yes again, but facts are facts. Yes, sir? Yes, sir. How long have they known we were coming? Good question. Terrifying question. I checked the timeline. Our scout ships had visited Sol system 8 months ago. Standard procedure. Quick scan, collect data, leave before anyone notices. Stealth protocols had been perfect. The scouts reported no detection, no pursuit, no indication that the humans even knew they had visitors. But what if the scouts were wrong? What if the humans did detect them? What if these clever, paranoid, aggressive little mammals saw our ships, understood exactly what they meant, and spent 8 months preparing for war? Sir, I said carefully, I think they have been expecting us for quite some time. Thraxus closed all 3 eyes, took a deep breath, opened them again. Then let us not disappoint them. All ships proceed to planetary bombardment positions. If they want to hide in their holes, we will burn the holes. The fleet moved into high orbit, standard bombardment formation, each ship selecting targets, military installations, industrial centers, power generation facilities, transportation hubs, everything that keeps a civilization running. We would not genocide them. That is against Vorkathi law. But we would definitely make them wish they had surrendered when they had the chance. Weapons ready, reported Zara. Target locks confirmed across all ships, awaiting firing sequence. Thraxus raised one hand. On my mark. 3, 2. That was when the satellites moved. I need you to understand something. We had catalogued every satellite in Earth orbit, hundreds of them. Communication satellites, weather satellites, navigation satellites, scientific instruments, primitive junk, most of it. We had dismissed them as irrelevant, space debris, essentially. No threat, no concern. We were idiots. Because those satellites were not satellites at all. Or rather, they were, but they were also something else. Something much worse. Every single one of them had been modified, retrofitted, turned into weapons. Small weapons, sure. Nothing that could seriously threaten a Vorkathi warship. But when you have 647 of them, all moving at once, all turning to face your fleet, all powering up weapon systems that your sensors suddenly realized were there all along, well, that changes things. Incoming. Zara screamed. The satellites fired. Not all at once, and that would have been manageable. No, they fired in waves. Coordinated waves, timed to the microsecond, designed to overwhelm point defense systems through sheer volume of fire. Lasers, missiles, more railgun projectiles, even some kind of particle beam weapon that we did not even know they had. It was like being attacked by a swarm of angry insects, individually harmless, collectively terrifying. Our shields held, mostly, but several ships took hits. Minor damage, nothing critical. But the psychological effect was significant. We were taking fire from every direction, from weapons we had not detected, launched by a species that was supposed to be primitive. Return fire. Thraxus roared. Eliminate those satellites. We did. Oh, we did. Our point defense systems came online and started swatting satellites out of the sky like flies. Plasma pulses, laser bursts, kinetic rounds. Within 5 minutes, we had destroyed 200 of them. The Earth orbit was a cloud of expanding debris and vaporized metal. But here is the thing about humans. The thing we did not understand until far too late. They do not give up. Never. For every satellite we destroyed, they launched something else. Missiles from mobile launchers hidden across the planet. Aircraft that were somehow capable of reaching orbital altitude. Even ground-based lasers that tracked our ships and fired, over and over, doing minimal damage but refusing to stop. It was exhausting. It was infuriating. It was like trying to fight smoke. And then finally they used nuclear weapons. Not on us. That would have been stupid. The nuclear weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Even their biggest bombs would barely scratch our hull armor. No, they used them on their own planet. Specifically in their upper atmosphere. Dozens of detonations. Hundreds, maybe. We could not count them all. The electromagnetic pulse alone fried half our sensor arrays. The radiation bloom made targeting impossible. The shock waves disrupted our formation. They had turned their own atmosphere into a weapon. They are insane. Zara was clutching her console, eyes wide. They are bombing themselves. High-altitude detonations. I managed to say, struggling to make sense of my malfunctioning instruments. Designed to create interference, minimal ground damage, maximum disruption to orbital operations. It is actually quite clever. Thraxus said a word that I will not repeat. Then he said several more. Then he turned to me. Get me Admiral Corvan again. Right now. I tried. The channel was full of static and radiation noise. The nuclear detonations had created a temporary communication blackout. We were on our own. And that was when the humans launched their counterattack. The real one. The one that changed everything. 4 objects left Earth's atmosphere. Big objects. Heavy objects. Moving fast but not relativistic. Our sensors, the ones that were still working, identified them as spacecraft. Crude things. Chemical rockets. Barely controlled explosions pushing metal tubes toward orbit. We almost laughed. Almost. Why almost? Because those crude metal tubes were aimed directly at our ships, and they were big enough to carry payloads that made our threat assessment system start shrieking warnings. What are those? Thraxus demanded. I scanned what little data I could extract from the sensor hash. Unclear, sir. Mass suggests significant payload. Trajectory indicates ramming vector. They appear to be. Oh no, Kelvar. What did you just say? They are going to ram us, sir. Silence. Then, very quietly, with chemical rockets. Yes, sir. The kind of spacecraft that takes them hours to reach orbit. Yes, sir. And they think ramming us is going to work. I checked the data again. Did the math. My blood went cold. Sir, if those vessels are carrying the payload mass I think they are carrying, and if they achieve the velocity I think they are going to achieve, they will not need to penetrate our shields. The kinetic energy alone will transfer through the shield matrix and turn everything inside this ship into paste. Thraxus stared at me. They are going to throw themselves at us. Suicide attack, sir. Yes. Brilliant, he whispered. Insane, but brilliant. The 4 ships kept coming. We fired everything. Plasma cannons vaporized 2 of them. The 3rd took a direct hit from 3 separate laser arrays and broke apart. The 4th got through. It did not hit the Infinite Dominion. It hit the battlecruiser Eternal Conquest, 2,000 meters to our starboard. The impact was. I do not have words. The ship just crumpled. Like paper. The shields failed. The hull collapsed. The reactor containment breached. And 1,600 Vorkathi soldiers died in less time than it takes to blink. We had just lost a battlecruiser to a primitive spacecraft that probably cost less than our bathroom facilities. The command deck was silent except for the sound of damage reports flooding in from across the fleet. Thraxus stood completely still, all 3 eyes fixed on the expanding cloud of debris that had been the Eternal Conquest. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Get me high command. I do not care if you have to physically fly there and deliver the message in person. Get me Admiral Corvan. Tell him we need reinforcements. Tell him we need a lot of reinforcements. Tell him. Where? He paused. Tell him the humans are not going to surrender. I opened every channel I had, tried every frequency. The static was still terrible, but finally I got through. Admiral, I said, my voice shaking. Admiral, we have a situation. Admiral Corvan did not believe me at first. Can you blame him? I barely believed it myself, and I was watching it happen in real time. The primitive species with chemical rockets and nuclear bombs was somehow holding off the most powerful fleet in Vorkathi history. It sounded like a bad joke. It sounded like the kind of thing junior officers made up to explain why they failed their tactical exams. But the wreckage of the Eternal Conquest floating in orbit told a different story. A very expensive, very embarrassing story. "Repeat that," Corvin said after a long pause. His voice had lost that dismissive edge. Now he just sounded tired. "You lost an entire battlecruiser to what exactly?" "A kinetic strike, sir," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "A manned spacecraft. Chemical propulsion. Mass approximately 400 tons. Impact velocity 8 kilometers per second. The shield matrix transferred the kinetic energy directly into the hull structure. A catastrophic failure across all decks. Total loss of crew." Another pause. Longer this time. I could almost hear him thinking, calculating, trying to make the numbers make sense. They did not make sense. That was the problem. 400 tons at 8 kilometers per second should not penetrate our shields, he said finally. "It did not penetrate, sir. It did not need to. The energy transfer was sufficient to cause structural failure. The humans appear to understand our shield technology better than we thought. They exploited a vulnerability we did not know existed. How long have you been engaged?" I checked the chronometer. 2 hours and 17 minutes, sir. In 2 hours, they destroyed one of our capital ships, damaged 3 others, eliminated your sensor capability, disrupted your communications, and forced you into a defensive posture. That is an accurate summary, yes, sir. And they did this with rocks and chemical explosions. Very fast rocks, sir. Very large explosions. And also lasers. Nuclear weapons. Orbital weapons platforms disguised as satellites. Mass driver installations hidden on their moon. Suicide attacks. Coordinated tactical doctrine that suggests significant military planning and— "Sir, are you laughing?" He was. A dry, bitter sound that made my skin crawl. "Laughing? No, Kelvar. I am having a mental breakdown. There is a difference. How many reinforcements are you requesting?" "Commander Thraxus recommends an additional 60 ships, sir." "Minimum. 60. Corvin was quiet for so long I thought the connection had dropped. "Then granted. I am dispatching the second strike fleet. They will arrive in 48 hours. Until then, maintain defensive position. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. And Kelvar?" "Yes, sir?" "Do not lose any more ships to rocks." The channel closed. I looked at Thraxus. He looked at me. Zara was still staring at her tactical display like it might suddenly start making sense. 48 hours, Thraxus said slowly. "We need to hold position for 48 hours against an enemy that just destroyed a battlecruiser with a spacecraft held together by welds and optimism." "We still have 42 ships, sir," Zara offered. "They have none. We have overwhelming firepower, superior technology, shields, armor, weapons that can level continents. They have rocks. Those rocks destroyed the Eternal Conquest. That was one lucky shot, sir. It will not happen again." Oh, how wrong she was. How beautifully, tragically wrong. The humans did not launch another suicide attack immediately, and that would have been predictable. Instead, they did something much worse. They started talking to us. Not surrender terms, not negotiations. They started broadcasting on every frequency they could find. Radio, microwave, laser communications, even primitive audio signals that our computer had to translate. And the content? The content was problematic. "Attention, Vorkathi fleet," said a human voice, calm and measured and absolutely confident. "This is General Marcus Stone of the United Earth Defense Coalition. You have entered our system without permission. You have threatened our world. You have killed our people. This is your only warning. Leave now, or we will be forced to defend ourselves." Zara actually laughed. "Defend themselves? We are defending? They attacked us. Technically, I said carefully, we did arrive with the stated intention of conquering their planet. That is not the point. Thraxus held up a hand for silence. Respond. Standard contact protocol. Inform them that resistance is futile. Offer terms of surrender. The usual. I composed the message, transmitted it on every channel, waited for their response. It came 30 seconds later, not from General Stone, from someone else. Someone who sounded much younger and much less professional. "Hey, Vorkathi Fleet," said a different human voice, this one male and dripping with something our translator identified as sarcasm. "This is Captain Jake Morrison, United Earth Space Force. Thanks for the offer, but we are going to have to decline. See, we checked your terms of surrender, and honestly, they suck. Relocation, absorption into your empire? Hard pass. So here is our counteroffer. You leave, right now, and we promise not to throw any more stuff at you. Probably. Okay, no. Definitely we will throw more stuff. But we will think about maybe not hitting you, sometimes. This offer expires in 60 seconds. Tick-tock. The command deck was silent. Zara's mouth was hanging open. Thraxus looked like he had just swallowed something toxic. I checked the translation algorithm 3 times to make sure I had understood correctly. "Sir," I said slowly, "I believe they just mocked us." "I got that, Kelvar. Thank you. They think they can dictate terms to us. Also clear. They are going to attack again, obviously. The 60 seconds expired. Nothing happened. 1 minute became 5. 5 became 10. 10 became 20. We waited, tense, weapons ready, sensors scanning for any sign of incoming threats. The humans had gone quiet. Their broadcasts stopped. Their satellites stopped moving. Even the background electromagnetic chatter from their civilization seemed to fade. It was eerie, like watching prey pretend to be dead. "Sir," said Zara nervously, "what are they doing?" "I have no idea," Thraxus admitted. "Kelvar, sensor status? Still degraded from the nuclear pulses, sir. I am reading minimal activity on the surface. Some electromagnetic emissions. Standard background noise. Nothing that suggests weapons preparation. Nothing that. Wait. Wait? There is something. Multiple somethings. Launching from the surface. Not spacecraft. It's too small. Too slow. Ballistic trajectories. Looks like. Oh no, oh. Oh no, 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 no. Kelvar, I am getting very tired of that phrase. They are launching missiles, sir. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Chemical propulsion, nuclear warheads. Aimed at. They are not aimed at us." Thraxus leaned forward. "Then what are they aimed at?" I did the calculations. Checked them twice. My blood went cold. "Sir, they are aimed at each other." Silence. Complete, total silence. Then Zara whispered, "What?" "The missiles are targeting other human locations," I explained, my voice shaking. "Military installations, industrial centers, even some of their own cities. They are attacking themselves. Why would they do that?" Good question. Terrifying question. I pulled up tactical analysis, ran threat assessment protocols, tried to understand what possible strategic advantage could come from bombing your own planet. And then it hit me. "They are denying us resources," I said slowly. "Anything we might want to capture, they are destroying. Factories, shipyards, research facilities, or plants. They would rather burn it all than let us have it." Thraxus made that clicking sound again. "Scorched earth. They are implementing scorched earth doctrine." "That is insane," Zara protested. "They are destroying their own civilization." "They are destroying what we came here to take," I corrected. "Without infrastructure, without industry, Earth becomes worthless to us. Just another barren rock with no strategic value. They are making themselves not worth conquering, at the cost of their own development, their own progress. Centuries of work gone. They can rebuild, Thraxus said quietly. After we leave. When they are still free. It is. Actually quite logical. If you are willing to pay the price. We watched the missiles fall. Watched the nuclear blooms spread across their continents. Watched a civilization deliberately cripple itself rather than submit. It was horrifying. It was magnificent. It was the most stubborn, pig-headed, self-destructive thing I had ever witnessed. And it worked. Because High Command wanted resources, not radioactive wastelands. We were here to add productive worlds to the Empire, not glass over rubble and call it conquest. Sir, I said carefully, I think we should inform the Admiral of this development. Before Thraxus could respond, something hit us. Not the ship. The fleet. All of us, simultaneously. A massive electromagnetic pulse that made our previous sensor problems look like minor static. Every system screamed. Every display flickered. Every circuit board that was not shielded went dead. What was that? Thraxus roared, gripping his command chair as the ship shuddered. I fought with my console, trying to get anything resembling useful data. Unknown, sir. Massive energy surge. Origin point. Origin point is. Sir, it came from Earth. From multiple points on Earth. They detonated something. Something big. Nuclear weapons? Bigger than nuclear, sir. Much bigger. The energy signature is off the scale. It is like they set off artificial suns on their own planet. Fission bombs. That was what they were. Not fission. Fusion. Thermonuclear weapons in the gigaton range, detonated in their upper atmosphere, creating electromagnetic pulses that swept across orbital space like tidal waves of angry electrons. Our shields protected the hulls. Our shielding protected most of the critical systems. But our sensors, our communications arrays, our targeting computers, those were outside the shields. Those took the full force of the blast. Half our fleet was effectively blind. Weapons status? Thraxus demanded. Offline, Zara reported, her voice cracking. Targeting systems down. Fire control down. We still have power to the plasma cannons, but we cannot aim them. We cannot aim anything. We are flying deaf, dumb, and trigger-happy. Engines? Functional, sir. Then get us out of orbital range. Now, all ships, emergency ascent, high orbit, and beyond their weapons range. Move. The fleet began to climb. Slowly. Too slowly. Because the humans were not done. They were never done. While we were blind and confused and trying to escape, they launched Phase 3 of whatever nightmare plan they had cooked up. Ground-based lasers. Lots of them. Hundreds, maybe thousands, scattered across every continent. Each one individually weak. Each one barely capable of scratching our hull armor. But focused together, coordinated through some kind of network we still did not understand, they could concentrate enough energy to overwhelm local shield sectors. And they aimed for our engines. The cruiser Stellar Wrath lost 3 of its 6 main thrusters. The destroyer pack Vengeance lost both primary drives. The dreadnought Cosmic Fury actually started tumbling as its stabilization systems failed. We were under attack from the planet's surface itself, from weapons so dispersed and so numerous that we could not possibly eliminate them all. Return fire. Thraxus screamed. Somebody, anybody, fire back. We tried. Oh, we tried. Plasma cannons discharged blindly into the atmosphere. Some of them probably hit something. Most just burned holes in empty air. Without targeting data, without sensors, we were just throwing energy at the planet and hoping something important exploded. The laser attacks continued. Surgical, precise, targeted. They knew exactly where to hit us. They knew our weaknesses. They had studied our ships, analyzed our technology, prepared countermeasures for every system we had. How long had they been watching us? How many of our previous conquests had they observed? How much intelligence had they gathered before we even knew they existed? Sir, we have a problem, I announced. staring at the one sensor feed I had managed to restore. A big problem. Bigger than being shot by an entire planet. Yes, sir. They are launching more spacecraft. Chemical rockets again. But a lot of them. I count 47. No, 63. No, wait, sir. They are launching everything. Every rocket they have. Every spacecraft. Every probe and satellite and experimental vehicle. Everything that can fly. And they are all aimed at us. Thraxus closed all three eyes. Kinetic strikes. Yes, sir. Suicide attacks. Ramming vectors. If even a quarter of those reach our fleet. Sir, we cannot lose 9 more ships. High Command will have us executed. After they execute our families, after they execute everyone we have ever met. Suggestions? I had one. I hated it. But I said it anyway. We leave, sir. We leave. Tactical withdrawal, sir. Strategic repositioning. We jump out of system, regroup, wait for reinforcements, plan a proper assault with full intelligence and adequate preparation. That is a fancy way of saying we run away. Yes, sir? It absolutely is. Thraxus looked around the command deck, looked at Zara, who was trembling as she tried to restore weapons targeting. Looked at me, clutching my failing console. Looked at the view screen, where 63 human spacecraft were climbing toward us on pillars of fire and pure, concentrated spite. All ships, he said quietly. Prepare for emergency jump. Coordinates Theta 77. Maximum distance. We are leaving. Sir, Zara protested. We cannot just abandon the operation. The Admiral will. The Admiral will understand when I explain that the alternative was losing the entire fleet to a species that fights with rocks. Thraxus snapped. Now execute the jump before those rockets get close enough to make that decision for us. The fleet began spooling up jump drives. It takes time. Precious time. Time we did not have. The human spacecraft kept coming. Faster now. Accelerating. Using every drop of fuel. Pushing their primitive engines to the breaking point. They were going to make it. Some of them were going to make it. 15 seconds to jump, I announced, watching the incoming tracks converge with our position. 10 seconds. 5. 3 ships hit us before we could jump, not the infinite dominion. We were lucky, or unlucky, depending on your perspective, because we survived to tell this story. But the carrier Guardian of Light took a direct hit. The science vessel Eternal Wisdom was clipped by debris and lost its forward section. And the frigate Quick Retribution just vanished. One moment it was there, next moment it was atoms. The jump drives activated. Space twisted. Reality folded. And 41 surviving Vorkathi warships fled the Sol system like scared children running from a nightmare. We materialized 3 light years away, scattered across a cubic light minute of space, damaged and demoralized and utterly defeated. The fleet that was supposed to conquer Earth in 72 hours had been driven off in less than 4. We had lost 3 capital ships. Dozens more were damaged. Our casualties numbered in the thousands. And we had not conquered anything. We had not even landed a single soldier on the planet's surface. The humans had won, with rocks, and chemical explosions, and the kind of tactical thinking that made me question everything I thought I knew about military doctrine. Admiral Corvin arrived with the Second Strike Fleet 2 days later. By then, we had compiled a full report, detailed analysis, sensor logs, tactical recordings, everything. We presented it all, expected him to order another assault, expected him to gather even more ships and crush the humans through sheer overwhelming force. He read the report, watched the recordings, studied the data. Then he looked at Thraxus and said something I will never forget. They were willing to destroy their own civilization rather than surrender. Yes, sir. They coordinated planetary defense across hundreds of competing factions. Yes, sir. Yes. Nah. They built weapons specifically designed to counter our technology. Yes, sir. They fought like like they had been preparing for this war their entire history. That is our assessment, sir. Corvin was quiet for a long time. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He ordered a full retreat, not just from Sol's system, from that entire sector. 40 light-years in every direction. He declared Earth and its surrounding space off limits to all Vorkathi expansion operations indefinitely. They are too dangerous, he explained when the Battle Council questioned his decision. A species that fights like that, with that level of coordination and sacrifice and pure stubborn refusal to accept defeat, they are not worth conquering. They are not worth fighting. They are worth avoiding. Because if we push them hard enough, if we threaten them enough, they will not just resist, they will come for us. And I do not want to see what a species capable of this level of warfare could do if they ever develop technology equivalent to ours. 6 months later, human spacecraft entered our territory. Not warships, diplomatic vessels. They carried ambassadors, representatives, scientists, and a message. "We know you will come back eventually," the message said. "When you do, we will be ready. But we would prefer not to fight. We would prefer to talk, to trade, to coexist. We are not your enemies, but we will never be your subjects. You can accept that and prosper. Or you can test us again and see what we have built while you were gone. Your choice." High Command chose peace, because High Command, for all its faults, is not completely stupid. We signed treaties, established boundaries, opened trade relations. The humans got their independence. We got a neighbor that scared us more than any enemy we had ever faced. And that is the story. That is how the mighty Vorkathi Empire, conqueror of 147 worlds, lost a war to a species that throws rocks. We had plasma cannons. They had chemical explosions. We had shields that could deflect stars. They had determination that could move planets. We had overwhelming technological superiority. They had something we could not build or buy or steal. They had the absolute, unshakable conviction that they would rather die free than live as slaves. And they were willing to prove it, over and over, until we believed them. I still serve in the fleet. So does Thraxus. So does Zara. We survived. We learned. And whenever some young officer talks about humans, about how primitive they are, about how easy it would be to defeat them, we tell them this story. We tell them about the time humanity defended their homeworld with rocks. We tell them about the ships we lost, the battles we fought, the war we could not win. And we tell them the most important lesson of all: never underestimate a species that evolved by throwing things at problems. Because eventually they get really, really good at it. Good enough to hit moving targets in orbit. Good enough to calculate trajectories that exploit shield harmonics. Good enough to turn anything, even themselves, into weapons. The humans used rocks. We used fusion plasma and quantum technology and weapons that could crack moons. And we lost. Because war is not about having the best technology. War is about being willing to do whatever it takes to win. And humans? Humans will always do whatever it takes. They are still out there, building, expanding, developing new technologies, getting stronger, getting smarter, getting better at throwing things. And every time I look at the star charts, see Sol's system marked in red with all those warning symbols, I remember the 4 hours that changed everything. I remember the day we learned that sometimes rocks are enough. If the people throwing them are crazy enough, stubborn enough, human enough, they won. We lost. And I am absolutely fine with never fighting them again. Because next time they might throw something worse than rocks. And I really do not want to find out what that looks like.